Let's kick it off. Morning, everyone. Welcome to
Morning.
this month's meeting of the Facilities Finance and Operations Committee. It's May 15th. It's 9:01. We have a quorum. With that, let's dive right in. Phil, I'll kick it to you since Mike's not here. I don't know if you have anything to say about facilities and grounds.
Just broadly speaking, I'll just give some broad updates. So we're continuing, of course, our routine maintenance of the buildings. We're this time of the year is a little bit tricky for us, as it relates to the regulation of temperatures. Due to the fluctuation, we still at some point still have some heat on, or we did. So we had some complaints from staff members that it was a little bit warm in the building. So we just had some issue with that, but I think we're in a better place right now. The temperature hopefully will change beginning next week, and so then we'll start that transition into the cooling season. For those buildings that do not have centrally heating, we did have some portable units that we'll be installing. We got those units during COVID, and they help. They're not ideal, but they help to kind of to moderate the temperature for those spaces. The sidewalk and turn lane project, those projects are on the way. The sidewalk project, the portion at Revson is, I want to say, about 90% complete. And I know the guys are working on the portion on Lord's Highway. Some initial work has begun for the turning lane on the main entrance. So that's also on the way. That should be completed. If not, early summer, I think, is a date for that one. In general, things are relatively in a good place. We're doing our best to maintain and to upkeep all the equipment. We do have some repairs that will need to happen as we turn the borders and stuff like that off. But in general, we're good for facilities and maintenance.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Um, I think I sent it to you. We got one concern from one parent about a portion of Hess being hot even before it's hot. So, and worried about whatever sort of AC units are there now and not believing that they're very effective. So again, I don't know all the details, but I'm just wondering. She laid out a reasonable case for perhaps paying attention to it and doing something, whether that's possible or whatever. It'd be nice to kind of circle back and let her know the status of what can or can't be done.
Sure. I'll take a look. I haven't had a chance to look at that email as yet, Deb, but I'll look
Okay.
at that email and I'll respond to the parent.
All right, great. Thanks.
Yeah, one quick anecdote on that. Last year, I was in one of the second grade classrooms. I think it was the first week of June, and it was like a sauna. So, if
Which
the
house was
temperature,
that? Do you remember, Mike?
I'm sorry.
Which house was that? Was that a North House?
Yeah, yeah, is North House. So, I would
Hmm.
anticipate that we should have, or I would anticipate that there's going to be issues there, and that we should have some sort of proactive measures to at least partially deal with as best we can North House because it's going to be hot.
It is going to be hot. We're definitely rolling out the portable units, and they'll be installed. We probably not get everything installed next week, but over the next 2 weeks or so, all portable units should be installed district-wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I would imagine the email that Deb is referring to will not be the only one, and that those will accelerate in the coming weeks. So, all
Yeah,
right.
and the good news is that that's one of the reasons why we have targeted the North House in terms of our first project, in terms of a significant IEQ or HVAC project. So hopefully within our next, unfortunately, we won't start this until next summer. Hopefully that will address the issues that we have in that house. It is probably one
Yeah.
of the more problematic sites that we have on campus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this particular parent was advocating for an upgrade in the portable units, and knowing full well that the North House will be, addressed, but there are two more hot seasons to go through. So it might be worth, looking at a relatively small investment, since it's a fair number of classrooms on that grade level.
Right, Deb, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure if I was clear or not. We all the rooms in the North House, they do have a portable unit. It's just a matter of putting them in.
Yeah, I think her concern was that it wasn't effective or it was too noisy and or it didn't do the job. So anyway, she
Unfortunately,
proposed another solution, whether it's realistic or not, et cetera. And I know you'll follow up. But I guess, there's some concern you can hear on our part that if it's a fix, even though it might cost some money, if it's reasonable, we may want to look at doing it.
fair enough.
Yeah, I agree, especially since now it's not going to be just this one season, it'll be next year as well. So if we had some intermediate measure there that we can sort of, reduce that temperature hike that's going to happen there relatively quickly here, that would be great.
All right.
Okay. Next, any other comments? No. Okay. Let's see. Next area here. Let's see. The next item is the lower field turf replacement.
Yes. So this is a capital project that we have slated for fiscal 27. We're taking a slightly different approach to this project in compared to our typical mode of procuring quotes where we would normally issue a direct RFP. In recent RFPs, we have not been getting the number of responses or even people just showing up for the walkthrough as we would have hoped. So we're going to be using a consortium that we're a part of. We're going to be just reaching out to all the members in the consortium that does this type of work, including those firms who installed or who showed up and responded to the last round or to the last refresh that we had for the turf. So I just want to put a point out to the board that we won't be doing like a straight RFP. We'll invite everyone. We'll invite several companies in, everyone. So it'll be level playing field. Everyone will show up on the same day. We'll do a Q&A, and then everyone will give in pretty much their responses.
And when are we going to do that, Phil?
Ideally, after this discussion, we hope to have it done by the end of May, hopefully to award a contract by the end of July, with an install date of late November.
So just out of curiosity, you have everybody come in, do a Q&A, so everyone's on a level playing field. At what point in time do they reveal their pricing in this process?
I'm sorry, Sharon, one more time. At what point in time do they?
Reveal their pricing?
Oh, so everyone will once they're in, everyone will just submit. We'll give them a timeline in terms of a due date, and everyone will submit.
So you'll already have the pricing before you have the meeting and the Q&A, or this will be
That
after?
will the pricing will come after.
Okay, all right, that's my question. Thanks.
Okay, keep us posted. And any questions, Deb? Anything from you? No. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Great. Keep us posted on that. Let's see. Next item: review of ed specs for the North House HVAC project.
Right. So as we've been talking about with the grant, one of the requirements of the grant is that there's an ed specs. So remember that the state took it on and it's now with OGM, Office of Grants Management, and one of their requirements are has to be done by the Board of Selectmen and also the ed specs. So we worked with Colliers to develop the ed specs for the North House. The ed specs for this HVAC project is normally simpler than the ed specs that you have seen for the North House, as this is just very specific to this one project, so it's not as lengthy as you saw for the middle school. So one of the requirements that it just has to be approved by the board. So we wanted to just have this, so everyone will have their eyes on it, and then we will submit this at the next meeting for full board approval. As of right now, we're thinking that the town meeting will not occur until late June, early July. So we probably will be slightly, based on the timeline that we have in our minds, maybe a month or two, slightly behind schedule.
Will that impact the project for next summer?
No, 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 no. I think we're still we have some room built in. We have it kind of mapped out on the board. So we have built in some wiggle room there. So I think we'll be okay. I think
Sharon, I think you're on mute. Sharon, you're on mute. Did you want to say something? Oh, sorry. Okay, got it. um, any other questions on this? I guess keep us posted. This is basically a process-oriented question, so you're just alerting us to the fact that the board has to approve this.
the board has to approve it. I want you guys to have eyes on it before it went to the full board. See if there's any questions or concerns about the specs themselves.
I, what I know about HVAC systems would fit in the thimble. So, and I think this is a fine narrative. I just think perhaps as you introduce it to the board, just say something about why you chose this type of system. Is it energy efficiency? Is it the architecture of the building? Or is this standard operating procedures now for schools in terms of I don't know, outdoor air system, dedicated outdoor air system, and the VRFs and all of that. And
Yeah,
I get, just that we're doing, either compliance or state of the art or going for energy efficiency or, just a little bit of background. And then I think we discussed this earlier because one of the Board of Finance members is concerned about, her interest in geothermal, and again, doesn't belong in the ed specs, but why we're doing this approach. If you can just do a quick summary when you introduce it to the board.
right. And this ed specs is based on the report that was done by Landmark, which was approved by the board. So just it's not something that's brand
Yeah,
new. The board did read
right.
those reports and everything else. So if you want me to bring that back as a reminder,
Yeah.
we
Well,
can just
just a real conceptual overview, like these are the specs going, and this is why we picked this approach. And we can't do something else because it won't work.
okay.
Does that make sense? I just want to just show the public that, there's been obviously a lot of thought gone into this. So, just remind us of what that thought was. Quick summary.
Yep, will do.
Great. Okay, I don't have any comments on that. Let's see. Next item, review of recent bid results. Back to
So
you,
we
Phil.
did. So we issued three RFPs, boiler replacement, and also for the replacement of the unit at the high school. As I mentioned, for most of these projects, we had between three and so for the high school project, we had three individuals showing up. We have two responses. For the core boiler replacement, we had six competent firms that showed up, two responses. And for the East House, five firms with only two responses. What we're seeing, as you can see, is that for two of the projects, they're really significantly over budget. And then we have one that is just under budget or favorably under budget. Overall, this project is going to be over, all three projects combined will be over budget by approximately 20 or so, approximately $21,000. What we're going to do is that we're just going to monitor other projects as they're coming in to see if we have any favorability there. We do believe that we may have some favorability, whether it be for fiscal 27 projects or for fiscal 26 projects, which will help to offset this deficit. So for the most part, we're really awarding this project to the lower bidder. In an ideal world, we would have preferred awarding it to McKinney. They've been servicing a lot of our equipment on campus, and they've been doing a great job. But given the nature and the prices, the difference that we have in prices, I think it's prudent that we award it to the low bidder. We did check on the references for these companies, for Save More and for Southport, and they came back all favorable.
And Phil, there's no opportunity. I mean, have you gone back to McKinney and said, "Hey, look, you guys are over by X, Y, and Z. If we were to, I don't know, grant you all three projects, is there a significant or is there material discount here that can be applied that can make you a little bit more competitive?" Have you? I don't want to tell you how to actually, how to
Yeah.
negotiate this, but have you gone back to them, told them sort of where they stand, and if there was a discounted pricing for the granting of, let's say, all three?
Yeah, they are aware. We did submit to all the companies what the other pricings were. So they are aware. They did not reach out to us to let us know that they'll give us any kind of discount. If we offer to one company, we would definitely need to offer this to all the vendors who responded, just to ensure that we have a level playing field. Because we do not want anyone to say, given the nature of public funding, that we're doing anything that we're not supposed to be doing.
You know what, I agree, Phil. Michael, I like that idea too, with going back and saying, especially with the company that we are working with, that we're happy with the relationship. But just for the top one, they were like $20,000 off, but the other two, they were substantially off on the other ones. They're much larger deltas. So I don't necessarily know if they're gonna be able to close that gap, and it seems as if they're not necessarily interested in trying either. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
but we did give everyone one of the great things about the RFPs is that everyone knows what everyone is charging, or they're seeing it once results are in. So if anyone has an opportunity, or they may decide to reduce their price, and they have an opportunity to do that. And if they did, then we'd reach out to the other company as well to say, hey, are you also able to reduce your pricing? We had to go back several times to these vendors just to ensure that all the items that we had, if there was anything that was left out. In many instances, in all three projects, we found out that things were missing and prices had to be adjusted. So it's this has not been one of our best responses in terms of it just being cut and dry. We've had to go on back several times just to follow up and just ensure that we everything that we need, that everything is included.
I guess two quick comments, which is number one is the response rate, is this typical for a response rate, right? Six view it, two bid, five view it, two bid. Is that typical or is that going down for some reason?
For some reason, I think it's going down because we did believe that we would have more people showing up because it's an HVAC project, right? And it's really not simple, but you do have a lot of players there. We do have requirements in our RFP process where there has to be bonds. So one of the reasons, just to ensure that we're protected. So we do require a bid bond and a performance bond. And I do believe that those items may kind of exclude some companies because they're not able to procure those bonds. But I think it's beneficial for the district to have those bonds in place. So when we did I think we're seeing that, right? When we did the generator project, um, you know, all the projects recently, except with the paving, we had a lot of people showing up as well. I think that was our highest show rate that we had. But again, not that many people are responding to the project, and I'm not sure why. We did reach out broadly speaking. We are on the state's DAS site where most of the vendors and the contractors where they look for projects, and we do advertise as well in the newspaper. So I'm not quite sure what if it's just market conditions and people do not have the labor to do the work, where people are not responding. A little concerning, especially where we have this major project coming up next year for the North House. But I think the firms who are responding, they're solid firms. They've worked in a lot of municipal buildings, and the references are good.
Yeah, I mean Sharon has a lot more experience in this than I do, but probably than most of us. But usually you get these bids and you're like, okay, I'm always skeptical of a bid that's extremely high or extremely low, right? In terms of, are we covering a lot of overhead and are they leaving something out? Or are they using materials that are, let's say, not as great? And so you toss both and you take, let's say, the middle bid, for example, here it's especially with the East House boiler replacement. I mean, that is a stark difference. And so as long as you're doing your diligence, that's great. And you've already caught things that are not being, I guess, included. Just I would double click on some of those numbers because that is a stark difference. I don't know.
It-
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, no, it is. And unfortunately, right? So that's in an ideal world, that's exactly what we would do. We would throw out all those responses on the ends and focus on the ones in the middle. But unfortunately, having two, you don't have the luxury of doing that.
The bonded thing also makes it really complicated too. Like Bill said, there are a lot of people who are probably happy to put in bids, but the bonding is something that's a bit complicated as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but I would imagine if they're dealing with, I mean, if people are coming out and dealing with, municipalities or districts, that they would know that, right? Wouldn't they already know that ahead of time that that would be a requirement? And so why would they even come out to even view it to potentially bid if they couldn't satisfy the bonding? I don't know.
Yeah, you may have some smaller companies who are, fairly new and they may not be aware of all the nuances with municipal with a bid process for municipalities.
Okay.
All right, so just to be clear, just for the record, for the North, for the locker room project, we are awarding the project to Save More. For the core, we are awarding to Southport, and for the East House, we're also awarding to Southport.
Okay. Anyone have any comments or concerns? Okay. All right, Phil. Thanks for that. Let's see. Next item, monthly financial update.
So good news here. We've turned. We've made that turn. It's been a rather slow turn. The good news is that we're set to end the year at this point with pretty much a balanced budget, and we're still monitoring a few items and a few isolated object codes for various fluctuations. But I think for the most part, we're in a good place at this time of the year. It's a little bit in previous years where the variance was primarily in salaries. It was easier to say specifically this is what the variance will be. It's a little bit more challenging, especially when you deal with items such as repairs and the like. But all in all, I think we're in a good place, and we'll just continue to monitor stuff. But as I mentioned, you'll definitely will see those swings in object codes between now and ultimately when we issue the final report in September. So I think we're good.
How much of the savings is due to the freeze? I mean, I took a look at sort of just the year over year and then the month over month. And on
Yeah.
the month we have, obviously some of those increases are more than offset by it looks like supplies and other services. And so is it like, for example, supplies, is
Uh-huh.
that basically due to this freeze?
It is. It is. I think for
Do,
the most part, supplies is definitely due to the freeze.
do you have, I'm just curious, do you have um, a total number in terms of savings that's driven by the freeze?
I would have to strip them out individually, but I don't have a number that's directly attributed to the freeze.
Would
Not
you
right
say
now.
would you say it's the majority of those savings?
The majority of the savings here is attributed to the savings or to the freeze.
Yeah, to the freeze, right? Okay.
Are these, to Michael's point, are these supply costs that are going to run into next year?
When you say run into next year, meaning
Well,
that
in
we're
other words, are they causing a shortage at some point?
at this point we don't believe so, but we're not closed yet. Again, it was a soft to freeze. So if anyone still needs to procure items, that option is still available.
So there's no makeup later on to Deb's point. There's
Yeah,
no,
sorry.
yeah, there's no makeup, right? Either, early next year that we're going to have to, um, make up for the difference here that we're,
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. We've been monitoring, and I've been in contact with the principal. So if they do need something, they have been reaching out. So I don't necessarily think that we're in a place where we'll need some of that. One of some concerns that we have as it relates to separate line, but as it relates to custodial supplies and maintenance supplies, prices are going up, right? So if you look at even on the RFPs, the initial quotes that we receive, the prices that the RFP turned up with was significantly higher. And it's the same thing here. We've been put on notice by our primary supplier that the price that they've been informed by their vendors that prices are going up. So we do anticipate that with over the next couple of months that we'll see some price surges, and that may impact some of our spending.
okay. Anything else, Deb, here on this one?
No, I think no.
Okay.
One of the things, as we're just on financials and just general facilities. So we have not spoken about the need of in the auditorium. So there is at some point in the near future will be a significant ask or request for various upgrades for the auditorium. Maybe a perfect opportunity, maybe for WEF, where they can partner with the schools to make those procurements. So just want to kind of flag that there's need for an upgrade to their computer system that monitors the hoist. That computer or the system, the program itself, is currently operates on XP, and there is no bridge. We've been waiting on a bridge, and the manufacturer has not been able to do that. So the only solution for that is a brand new system, and that will be a couple $100,000. There's also a need. We do have money set aside currently in the capital budget to address the sound and also the electrical component in the theater, but we may need additional funding for that. So we are working with Liz. She's in Liz Morris, Elizabeth Morris, to kind of to see if we could phase in these various projects. So I'll keep the board informed in terms of what those expenditures are, and if we can do a combination of both operating and capital budget to help to mitigate the cost.
And this isn't, and these costs aren't captured anywhere currently. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, they are not.
Okay. All right. Keep us posted on that.
Okay.
Any questions on this? Okay. Would you come to us with that, I guess, beginning of next year? Or is that, or is this like you're going to have some more information for us in June?
I may have some more information in June. If not, we'll do that next year, maybe a part of our capital budget, or we may do a combination of capital slash operating.
Okay.
So the costs, we need to plan for them and budget for them, or do we need to somehow find them in the existing approved budget for next year?
It may be a combination, Deb. We may need to plan for that. I have to have a conversation with Liz to find out exactly where we are. I know for one of their last performance, one of the performances this year, they had some issues. So just have to get. I do have a meeting. I'm supposed to have been scheduled with to speak with Megan Canetta, the principal for the schools, and also with Liz just to see exactly where we are. If there are items that can be addressed from this year's operating budget, we may do that. If not, we may just wait for next year if we can. But I'll have a better sense hopefully by June.
Okay, good. And if it looks like it's gonna, be a large amount of money and you're thinking about a capital budget, I'm just wondering, the way we have HVAC people come in and, assess what we need. Is there an equivalent for a theater or a sound system or a lighting system? I mean, our teachers are great. I'm not sure they're technical experts, so I'm just wondering how we determine what system and the size and the cost and the best one and all of that?
Right. So everything that Liz is doing, she's not necessarily assessing by herself. She's had companies come in to provide guidance. With the theater or with the auditorium in general, there are limited
Mhm.
vendors. You may have one or two vendors that do the work in these areas. So we're similar to what I think Erica mentioned, the tennis court, right? There is one company in the state that does all the work for the tennis courts. And I think it's a similar situation for theater. So we had a company come out, they've been doing the stage work, the hoist, and the various audio visual stuff for several years now. So they gave us sort of kind of a ballpark in terms of our guidance in terms of what needs to happen. What we need to do is prioritize or see if there's a way to prioritize or to phase in all the various repairs that needs to be or upgrades that needs to happen.
Okay, thanks. And it'd be nice if that got on some sort of a schedule, rather than just sort of pop up. If we knew every 5 years we needed to do something, or you know what I mean? It's just the way you're looking at your HVAC systems and your roofs. It would just be nice to get this on a plan and a rolling kind of idea.
That is the goal, and that has always been the goal. It's just been sometimes a little bit problematic to get that scheduled out. But I think
Okay.
we have a focus right now in doing that.
All right, great. Thanks.
Yeah, ideally phasing it in if we could do, be a wonderful way to go about it, but it depends on whether or not it's modular or whether or not it's obviously a completely new system. So keep us posted.
Definitely will, Sharon.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Yeah, keep us posted. So next item here, review of the preschool tuition rates for FY 27.
I'm gonna go a little bit out of order here.
Yeah.
So for the tuition rate and for the facility rates, in recent years we have been sort of kind of just pegging those increases to the annual budgetary increase. So we're continuing that practice. We do not necessarily see a need to deviate from that because as prices go up, they're kind of reflected in the budget as well. And for our local partners, we try to keep the pricing as favorable as we can. We hear every single year when the invoices go out that can we get a discount? Why is it so expensive? So we do our very best to work with our local partners, primarily Parks and Recs. As it relates to the preschool tuition for next year, we are proposing increase. The budget assumes an increase of $1,000. So we will be increasing our tuition rate for next year for to $9,277. The last
Yeah,
time,
I
yeah,
saw that was a pretty big increase, right? So we, I think, well warranted if if David were here. Um, so I took a look at this too over the last couple of years. I saw that for a couple of years we were increasing it by the rate of the budget increase, right? And then we have a couple of years here. This year increased by 12%. We did an increase in 24 of 10%. The last time I think we compared it, and I think we got ourselves up to the Durgay average. This is 2024.
yes.
Do you have reason to believe? So we didn't do a comparison this year. We did a comparison in 23. We did a comparison, it looked like in 24. We didn't do one this year. I guess we should do one for next year, since we haven't done one. But is there any reason to believe that it feels like this is more of a catch up, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, it is a catch up, and as well for this year, this is the first year where we expanded the program, and we sort of kind of as we were expanding the program, we wanted to still keep it affordable, somewhat affordable, and not have it be a sticker shock to parents. So once we have a sense in terms of the people who are enrolled and the demand for the product or for the preschool, we will definitely do. I think we did 2 years ago. So for fiscal 28, we'll definitely do another review to see where we are and just to ensure that we are on par with the Dirk.
Yeah, it's funny. Even if you go back to 2020, really quickly, even if you go back to 2023, we're still not even with this, this increase, we're still not anywhere close to Westport.
Yeah, the programs are different. I think Westport is a full day program,
Okay. Okay.
and we're not. Yeah, we're a half day program.
Sorry, Sharon.
Oh, whole night. Okay. No. I it cut out. Yeah. Question is, if a local family gets a proof of financial need, is there any sort of financial help that they're eligible to state for this preschool?
Sharon, you're breaking up a
I
little.
know
I
it's a
can't
lottery
hear
that's
you.
needed to. That's yeah. Hopefully, I'll get a better signal in a second. I know it's a lottery system, so people are really hoping to get in. However, if we have a local family that finds like through financial need, do we have any sort of program that can provide that for a family?
At this point, we do not. And we haven't, I think in recent years, as far as I can remember, we haven't had a family that's saying that they need any kind of assistance. But at this point, because given the nature of the community, we don't have a lot of those. But in instances, if and when that should arise, I guess we'll have to have a broader discussion in terms of what it is that the board is willing to do. I know Erica always wants us to explore options available from the state for additional funding, and we'll definitely do that if it's possible for us.
Okay. Yeah, I would hate to see a child miss out on an opportunity to get their education because of financial, restraints. So,
Yeah, we have not heard that in recent years, to be honest with you, because everyone, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have received the vast majority, if not all, of the deposits that we normally require to just so we can know exactly those families that will participate in the program. I don't recall hearing anything of any concerns.
Do we know how we're headed in enrollment? Have we filled up a fifth section? Do we know what the demand is?
We have filled a fifth section, and there still are a few children on the wait list.
Okay.
So we are completely enrolled for 5 classrooms between 14 and 15 students each.
Great, thanks. Good to hear.
Okay, next, capital budget.
Capital budget, we had some thoughts about ensuring that everything that we wanted was captured because what was approved was going to be a little bit less. So we kind of tweaked the format. So this is just to see if this format is acceptable to the committee. It's more of a format than anything else. Just to ensure that everything was captured.
Okay. I've always had this question. And it's more about a project, so maybe we don't want to talk about it today, but could we at some point get some more detail about the high school D wing renovation? Like, what is that?
That is upgrades of lighting and HVAC.
Okay, and can you remind me where the D wing is? Like, what does that
That
capture?
that is in the back wing of the building, closer to science.
Okay,
So yeah, that's the back end, and it's really the darker side. And once you get to the DE, whenever you're ready, that we can do a quick tour. But the D and E ring, they're right in the same hallway. And once you get there, you see the difference.
okay,
So in recent years, go ahead, Sharon.
no, I was going to say, I remember during my tour, they expanded the sizes of the windows in the E-wing to give more natural lighting. And D-wing, you look at it, you're like, wow, nice bunker there. So that's part of the project too, correct? To bring it up to
Yes.
modern ed specs, right?
Correct. Yeah.
okay. And then my other question in terms of format, could you also do it separate it out by school, like, or group them by school in addition to the timeline, just so we know like what's slated for the high school or whichever school, rather than go through every 4 years. If we could, in addition to this format, which I totally understand, is just also group it on a separate list by school. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. No, it does. We
Okay,
can
it's just easier to follow.
Yeah, we have to do a separate list for that. I think the reason why it's this way is because when we get into those instances where we have to make reduction, we
Yeah,
prioritize the list. But
yeah.
we can definitely group by school.
Yeah, so I mean, so people who are concerned, like, oh, Hess isn't getting enough attention, or, what's on the docket for the high school, it just helps to have it laid out by school. So people within that or just looking for a specific school, have an easy way to do it. Thanks.
Understood. As we're talking about any other questions about the format? No. All right. So just a little shift, but kind of keeping on capital budgeting. Last year, the state approved what's called the DRIP funding, which is funding our aid to school districts for minor repairs, HVACs, and the like. We're slated to receive approximately $88,000. So we'll have the conversation in terms of, or maybe we need to have a conversation with the Board of Finance, because if we apply that to our operating budget and we have a surplus, a decision may be made by the Board of Finance that goes to the general fund. So we may need to have a conversation that funds need to be earmarked or definitely put away for primarily for education and to address those needs. So just our initial flag. We'll talk some more about that in June, just so we can all be on the same page.
Can I ask a quick question that I have is, trip funds are not meant for capital budgets? In one time, continue straight. They're not meant for capital, exclusively for capital budgets, is it an operation?
Is your question whether or not these funds should be used for capital budgets?
Yeah.
No, I think the language,
Yes.
the language speaks more to repairs. So I guess an argument could be made in either way as to whether or not it's operating budget or capital budget.
All right, so Phil, I guess I'm confused. When does this 80,000, 88,000, when is that slated for, which budget year, I guess is really my question. I'm sorry, I just
All right,
got confused.
that's okay. Fiscal 26.
Okay, got it.
It's a fiscal 26. And it's based on how the law is written, there should be ongoing funding for these projects. But I have to specify how the law is written in terms of what actually happens and what is funded. That tends to be a little bit different. But for this year, we have some funding.
Okay.
Hey, Phil, when I looked at the capital budget, is there a reason why items 9 and 11 is that project is the Hess core roof replacement? Is there two phases to that project, or is that redundant?
We probably right. It's a good question. So it's in both years because we wanted to reflect that in year one we made the request and that it was deferred. So that if you look on page two, you see it coming out, that 700 coming out below. And then in year two, we added it in terms of what the overall cost will be.
So when I did this, Andrew, if you can give me an ability to share my screen quickly.
Sure.
This is like 2 seconds looking at this, Phil, but let's see.
1 second.
Sure. I just wanted to be crystal clear with what the budget, what we approved, where the budget lies today. As you look out, let me see here. Because I do just want everyone to be aware of the fact that again the budget's going to be the capital budget's going to be somewhat elevated, right? If I share this just really quickly, again, back of the envelope, I don't know if everyone can see this, but this is what we approved, right? This is the average of those years. Then we have some recommended deferrals. This here is basically just a sum of here. I didn't know whether to include or exclude that, so I just left it in the budget. So the adjusted capital budget really here is 3.73, 4.7, whatever have you. So the average is 3.3. And then I just took out the alternative funding here, right? Which is okay, it's still actually part of the budget, the capital budget itself. I understand what we're saying with the revised requested capital budget here, but the actual cost, right, of these capital improvements is 3.7 for year one. I didn't want that to go by the wayside and for people to look at this and say, oh, it's 1.275 for this year, because I think we've had that in the past, and I just wanted to reiterate that these numbers, people should not be surprised or shocked when these numbers are higher than what they've been in the past. So does this look right to you? Just first blush, Phil. And then secondly, yes, the 700. So should I? So we're including the 700 in the second year, and we've removed it from year one. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to. I wanted to check my math, and I also just wanted to flash this up for everyone because the actual adjusted capital budget this year, aside from just how we're funding North House, is 3.7. Anyway.
Correct. Mike, this is a great sheet. If you want, we can take this and we can include it in our supplementary materials or even incorporate this into the budget itself.
Yeah, I can refine it a little bit and make it a little bit more clear. As I was just going through all the numbers here, I was just trying to get a sense of exactly what the capital budget, irrespective of how we're funding it, what the capital budget is per year, what we're projecting it per year for the next couple of years. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea, Michael, and especially if you want to average it out. So it's helpful, and it doesn't go so far out that we're just guessing.
Right.
So thanks.
Yeah. I was just trying to make heads and tails of it myself as I was just going through all the line items, just to make sure that people understood this is what we requested, this is where we are, but there are deferments that are happening along the way here, and the average is 3.5 million, and I think that that's probably a little bit light if you consider that year four is just at this point a little bit more of a framework than it is. It's how it's a framework of what we may be requesting without actually putting pen to paper, and I'm sure that number will be elevated, right, from where it is today, which is 1.85.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay, I don't have any other questions. I had the question on the 700, and then just trying to view what the actual adjusted capital budget would be after the deferments.
No, that's perfect. We'll include this in our supplemental materials.
I don't have any other questions on this. And anyone else? Okay. I guess we're wrapping up here with the approval of the minutes. Deb, Sharon, have you guys had a chance to take a look? Any comments?
No, they look good to me. So I move that we approve them.
Me too. They look good to me. Okay, second. All right, we have a second. All in favor? Yep, aye. All right, I think that's it then. Let's see. Other business. There's nothing else currently, right, Phil? We've covered the gamut today.
We have.
Okay.
Can I just add a little something? Of course, this is about the middle school project. We may have to change the date for the tri-board meeting. That news came to me yesterday. So we'll have one, but the date may need to change. So I'll just keep the board apprised.
Are you thinking it's more of a June event, Deb? Or we don't, we
Yeah,
just,
I don't know for sure, but it may well be. Yeah, I just don't know. So and again, it's a little bit out of our control since there's three boards. So I will let you know as soon as I know more.
Right, thank you.
okay, thanks for that. All right, so before we adjourn, I guess the next meeting is slated for June 12th at 9 a.m. So we'll look forward to that. If there are no other comments or questions, I guess motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Yep.
All right, second. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks.
you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.